So, what we're going to talk about today is embracing complexity. And as you know, I'm sure, the world is getting increasingly complex. And a lot of this is happening as the human population has just spiked. If you look at human history and what's happened in the last few hundred years since the start of the Industrial Revolution, it's been pretty extraordinary. And with that many more people, and since every one of you, as you can see from Insights, is unique and complex, that makes things very complex. This is the amount of digital information created each year. The amount of information that's available is also increasing exponentially. And a lot of this is information that managers have access to and need to take into account when making decisions, when trying to figure out the best way forward. So how do we deal with such complexity and move processes forward and move organizations forward? And honestly, not many people necessarily are very good at this. So we're going to give you today actually a very powerful tool and a simple tool that not many people know. Okay, there's probably, the number's probably hundreds globally that have been exposed to this, and this is really, therefore, kind of at the leading edge of complexity management. But we think that's really important for the managers and leaders that are arising in the next generation. So the technique is called conversation mapping. It was developed by an Australian named Bruce Mackenzie, who is somebody I've met many times. He was involved with a program, MBA program I used to run. And it engages multiple stakeholders who may have different views. So you kind of saw the perspective of like people with different personality profiles. But if you look at complex issues, there's usually stakeholders who feel very strongly about different ways of approaching how that should be addressed. And that can actually lead to stalemate. And you see that happening. You see that happening in government. You see that happening around most of the major issues we're facing these days, because they're very complex. They affect different people in many different ways. So this is actually a technique for working with different stakeholders who have different perspectives on the problem, different issues that might affect them related to the problem, and it leads to a non-confrontational sharing of views. So everyone gets to fully express their view, but in a way that doesn't lead to arguments, doesn't lead to this. Essentially because the technique, at least the first stage of it, doesn't even involve talking. It creates something that these scholars call a rich picture or a mess, because what you're doing, complex situations are messy, and so that gets expressed in the process of this conversation mapping. And it represents this complex situation and all of those diverse perspectives and all of the different things that need to be taken into account when trying to craft an approach to actually addressing the issue. And it leads to what are called in complexity science or systems thinking, emergent properties and new frames of reference. So it can, from that, can emerge ways of thinking about the problem and approaches that none of those individual players may have thought about prior to this, going through this methodology. And so therefore it's useful for those kinds of intractable organizational challenges. So even within organizations, you can have multiple stakeholders who have different perspectives on how things should be done. And it's actually a way to get them all around, literally around the table together, to find some ways to move forward. So the technique is, and I'll go through it briefly, and then I'll leave this slide up when we go through it, is we start with a large sheet of paper and colored markers, and we've already actually determined the triggers. So you're all faced with some issues. already. Like you have this MBA program you're taking on. And most of you, if not all of you, are working full-time as well. So you've got a tension, therefore, between work and school. So how are you going to best, most proactively address that issue? How can you strategize and plan for the tensions that may inevitably arise as a result of conflicting priorities between your work life and your school life? Another is, you've got work and school. How do you personally stay balanced? So there's your personal well-being and health. So how are you going to maintain health and well-being while you're in a rigorous program that will challenge you, and you're most if not all of you are working? How do you face that? How do you deal with that? A third is around your families. Some of you have spouses or significant others. And if you don't, you still have those people. We can include a broader definition of family, those you're closest to. Okay? Because you might not even be close to your family. I don't know. But there's that tension between those you're close to and your studies. Because they're not going to have as much tension. So how are you going to deal with that proactively? How can you work with that, the complexities of that situation? And the fourth one is, you're coming into a master's level academic program. And this is different from undergraduate. It has, you are going to want to do well. Generally, anybody in an MBA program is intrinsically motivated. You're motivated to do well in the program. So how can you maximize your performance academically? So those are the four complex issues that we have as triggers. So not only do you get to learn this kind of cutting-edge technique, you get to practice it, solving some issues that most, if not all of you, will face. So we'll be dividing you into 4 groups, and one will be around each of the tables in the back. There's a paper, big piece of the butcher paper with a trigger in the middle. And you'll write off of that a thought or a feeling that pertains to that issue. It might be an approach, it might be, yeah, this really sucks, or, you can write whatever you think, whatever you're thinking or feeling about that. And so you start with some area, and then anybody else can write off of that. So what you want is you want to kind of take things off of this center one that are kind of new thoughts or ideas. But if there's one that relates to one, you write it off of that. Okay? And what you do is you'll write your little phrase, and it's just a word or a short phrase. You'll put a circle around it, and you'll just draw a line between that, in the first level, between that and the trigger, and then your reactions to that. You write your word or phrase, you draw a circle around it, and you connect it to the thought that you are referring to. Okay? Very simple technique. And you don't, even if you see connections that are between kind of things on different parts, don't worry at this stage about trying to connect them, drawing lines between them. So we just have these threads that emerge out. Okay? You're not kind of connecting different threads on different parts of the conversation map that you're developing. That's how the technique works. After that, there's an assimilation process. And when we get to that, I'll describe it more. But this is what a conversation map kind of ends up looking like. I did this with a group of students in Thailand who were working, MBA students who are working on, they're actually developing entrepreneurial ideas related to the water issues that Thailand was facing. And so this was a conversation map that we developed. But the idea of this is just to show you kind of what it ends up looking like. All right? It's a mess. Right? So with that, why don't we count off by fours? So why don't you start?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, and we'll have 1 is the first table, 2 is the second table here, 3 is the third table, and 4th is in this corner. And just stand around the tables. So you look at the big picture, and then you look at details, and then you can look at the whole thing again, and then look at some details. And you're doing this as a group. And someone, if that idea emerges, or something that seems interesting to you, or a pattern that you notice, something emerges, write it down on the flip chart that's behind your table. Okay? So you're going to come up with a list of kind of some different things that come out to you. And you can be talking while you're doing this. This part doesn't need to be silent. And so you can talk about what are some things that are emerging. And as those things kind of come out to you, write it down on the flip chart. So then once you have once you determine, wait, we're not quite there. Once you determine what a few of those key insights are, or themes that emerge, then you're going to look at, well, what are all the things on this map that relate to that? And what you're going to do is you're going to pick one that seems like this is really what you feel like this group is the most interesting theme or insight that emerged from this. And then you're going to actually write a paragraph about that. Okay? And it's basically about how that emergent theme or insight relates to the trigger that's in the middle. And what is it? How does that connect to that insight, or that trigger? That trigger is kind of like a complex situation that could present issues or challenges as you move your way through an MBA program. So you'll come out with some type of emergent theme or idea. You're going to write a paragraph about it and how really it addresses that issue. Okay. Now, this process of dealing with complexity, you go through stages of like, emergent themes. But if you just stick with it, they'll start to come out. You'll start to see how this technique actually works. Where you start to pull up those themes and insights. So if you go through a few minutes of like discomfort with it, that's normal. Of like uncertainty, or you're not quite seeing any patterns yet. That's okay. All right. So we'll take some time through this whole process, all the way through writing the paragraph, about half an hour. Okay. So go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I'll leave this slide up.
Yeah, I think you're right. A few things from one.
So what we're going to do now is what we call reporting up. And we'll start with group one. And what we'd like to know are what were kind of some of the key, well, first of all, what the trigger is that yours is, and what were some of the key kind of themes that emerged, and then the one you chose as the paragraph that you wrote. Okay. So
ours is school and family, and then the that we came up with were stress, support, time, motivation, priorities. This was the biggest theme, school and family. And we, for the paragraph, we try to make it a little more than inclusive, because to some people, it's very personal and needs, means something for everybody. So we try to get to the point, but also we're a little bit about it too. So we wrote, in order to succeed in school, we need the support of family and friends. When we struggle to balance time, we use stress as motivation to achieve our goals for a better life. By centralizing our priorities around our core values, we are able to determine the best path to success.
okay, so in that, what are some of the key things that jump out that we are, that's kind of interesting, is use stress as a motivation. So what do you mean by that?
So, if you're a determined person, then you would use stress to motivate you to stay on track in order to achieve your goal. So when you face a challenge, you push through it and continue on the path to achieve your goal.
It's interesting because in our office, the graduate programs office, we sometimes talk about the right level of stress. Because there's like a balance. It's like if you have the right level of stress, you actually are performing at your capacity. If you exceed that, there's a kind of a drop off in performance and effectiveness and happiness and all that. And if there's not enough, then you're just not getting stuff done enough, and it's just not all working. There seems to be, but most people think just stress is bad. Just kind of, well, what's the right level of stress? And in your case, it's not just for you. It's like, what's the right level of stress for you that also works for your family, in a sense.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Anything else jump out at anybody about that? So, the other thing that jumped out at me was around centralizing our priorities around our core values.
A lot of our values, we might start from our family, like what your family is supposed to do, or perhaps life experiences that you have, maybe will gain new values. And it's important to, it's not so much as important, but sometimes it's just natural to kind of reach into your values when you are maybe facing a challenge or, are already achieving something you haven't done here.
Well, through our family, our culture and our values are shaped. And now being more, professional adults out in the world, and what we're doing with our own lives, whether we have a large family or whether we're more singular. So we didn't want to just say, style. Everybody has their own definition of their family. So that's what we're getting centralizing it to determine the values and the goals of what we're doing for our life, what we're trying to achieve, and then how that may relate to our family. As defined by us.
What jumps out to me about that is often companies have value statements, and they use those statement of values to help guide decision making. So it's kind of like these are the priorities, and if I have a complex decision, it's sometimes helpful to look at, well, what are those values that we stand for, and that might sway my decision about something. It might be, okay, our value, like one of the values we hold is building community and neighborhood. Well, we should do this, maybe make that extra expenditure, whatever it is, to help build community. And so having those kind of values clear is good. But actually, reminding, but doing that in a family setting, I think is kind of novel. People talk a lot about kind of family values, but actually writing down what are my core values and making sure that I'm using those to make decisions as well as regards family. So that's interesting. So, group 2. Who wants to be your spokesperson?
Our whole key is school and work, but our whole subject is school and work. And our key is failure, is fear of failure. And so we found the causes of failure is a heavy workload, high expectations, time, stress, fear of failure. This is derived from high expectations we place upon ourselves along with outside pressures. As a result, we become overwhelmed, stressed, and find ourselves out of time. To overcome these burdens, we need to utilize disciplined time management and find our drive to be present and our determination to succeed. Me time is essential to achieve our goals.
So, I kind of pushed this group got that early, so I kind of pushed them a little harder. And I thought, I always have some trouble with if this solution to a problem is just to try harder. In a sense, and I felt like that kind of was some of what was being said here. And it isn't that everything wasn't correct that they said, it wasn't meaningful, but there's this element of like to overcome these burdens, we need to utilize discipline, time management, and find our drive to be present, our determination to succeed. It's like, just try harder. And I asked them to kind of step back and take a look at, what would be preventing that from happening? What would be preventing one from being able to just kind of step up, rattle yourself, and make it happen, manage your time better, build up your drive? And what they came up with is that me time is essential. Okay, so it's kind of like, in order to have more drive to get more done, I actually need a little space to be able to kind of recharge my own batteries in whatever way that means for me, in order to be able to then find the inner resources to be able to do those things. And that would be kind of counterintuitive at first, that, you've got this challenge of work and school and doing all these things together. And actually one key to being able to succeed at that is to spend a little time doing neither school nor work, but what we need to do for ourselves. And I can define what that is for anybody else. I can only define that what it is for me. So I think using that term works. So thank you. Any other comments or questions or thoughts about their statement? Okay, group 3.
Okay, so we have personal well-being, and we have a few things that kind of fall under that subject. So we have time management, health and wellness, and stress management, and then a lot of other things fall under those few things. Time management, so kind of family and relationship talk about, and how do you balance it all and make time for everything you want in your life. So we said effective time management allows a balanced lifestyle and fosters your personal well-being. Managing your time helps alleviate stress and allows for preparation and planning. Without good time management, relationships suffer, especially those between close friends and family. Ultimately, it will cause you to fail in your academic and professional life. However, proper time management is impossible without a healthy body and healthy mind.
Now we have an emergent theme within all of these. So in systems thinking, there's a term that was used. It was actually coined by a guy named Buckminster Fuller, who was a kind of a technologist and philosopher who came up with a lot of inventions that help people to utilize resources so that this one planet can actually support everybody. And he came up with this thing we call it the trim tab. Now, if any of you have ever steered boats or anything like that, large boats, you have a rudder, but there's so much force on a large ship to move the rudder that there's actually a little rudder on that called trim tab. If you turn the trim tab, then that actually is what moves the rudder. So you can move a whole big ship by moving this small thing called trim tab. And he said as a metaphor for those things that can have a really big impact, that affect many parts of the system. In this case, the system of your lives as you take on more complexity. And perhaps one of those is doing those things that create some balance that allow you to manage your time better. So the last sentence of yours is proper time management is impossible without a healthy body and a healthy mind. So if you do a few things that can help you to then manage your time better, if the time management, because that was here too, is the rudder, then the trim tab might be, okay, I need to create a little space for myself, feed myself a little bit in order to be able to do that. All right, thank you. That's for you.
So ours is academic performance, and the key things that we saw was stress management, having a good support system, and also time management. So allowing for time management will allow you to, like you said, have time for yourself, but also help you balance everything in your life. So we wrote, poor time management leads to issues that will ultimately affect academic performance. The factors in your life, work, family, and academics affect your stress level. The stress level can be reduced with effective time management tactics, such as prioritizing your work, planning ahead, or keeping a schedule, and this will better alleviate your stress factors. This is key to maintaining a healthy balance in your life and success in your academic endeavors.
Wow, so interesting that we're all working on different issues and kind of came up with very similar approaches. So I do find that pretty interesting. So what you could do if you were using this, so we use this as a way of kind of teaching you this technique. If you were working with a major problem that was facing a company or a city or whatever, you might then take, okay, and what's emerged from all of this is time management. So then you actually put time management as the trigger, and you do it again, you do the whole process again. So you're like drilling way down. You've determined that time management is critical for all of this. So then you drill down into time management, get everything about that, and see what are those keys that can help with you being more effective at time management. So you can actually kind of do multiple iterations of this to actually develop, till you finally come up with, okay, here's a concrete action plan that we're going to take that's going to solve the bigger issue, or at least address it in some effective way. So thank you. Now, we have a treat for you. We have a eMBA student and her husband who have started a company. And we thought we would love to support them and really treat you to something really special. So, Paula, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little about your business?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Paula. I'm sure they already mentioned I'm part of Forward 6. Today we actually have class, and so I was in corporate for a couple of years up until about 2 months ago, and my husband and I finally decided to start a business, and I don't think that I would have the confidence or the tools if I wasn't in the program, so I was very grateful for that. But our business is called and so what we do is basically we take Vietnamese coffee. How many of you guys have actually had Vietnamese coffee? Yeah. So you guys are in for a treat, because if you're falling asleep right now, or if you're feeling sleepy because it's later in the afternoon, you're going to get, waking up for sure. But what we do is we take a whole farm to cocktail type of feel with Vietnamese coffee. So we actually make everything ourselves, even the condensed milk that we put in. It's all organic and there's no preservatives. So if you're, anyone here can't have dairy? So you can now finally have Vietnamese coffee because we actually have coconut condensed milk, and that is also preservative free. So we are in the infant stages of our business. So any feedback, we're welcoming that. So let us know what you think of the drinks, and can't wait for you guys to try it. So,
All right.
and thank you for actually having us today.
Oh yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, thank you. And you're in for a treat. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It might take a little while, so be patient, but put in your order and then show.
Yeah, so what I could actually do is, if we're running out of time, I can definitely make, the drinks, take your order, and then I'll just kind of bring it in here, and then if you see your name or I'll flash around, you guys can just claim that it's yours. So, but yeah, I'll be right outside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get ready to